Hi, welcome. This is just a casual video of voiced over pictures and video from my 2024 season. I wanted to journal it and thought sometimes people like to see what others uh, do in their gardens, what works for them and doesn't. This is my 7B Oklahoma cutting garden and small flower farm. So, a little disclaimer before I get too far in here. This was before I knew I was starting a YouTube channel, so a lot of the video and images are portrait, not landscape. So, changing that moving forward. But this is January. Every month I've got some video and pictures. And of course, January is just seed starting and doing things indoors mostly. And it's so nice to see green and sprouting in here and get your hands in the dirt. So that season, I was trying some cool season annuals, which I did learn quickly that my best bet for most of these is to plant them out in, late fall, let them overwinter. But there are a few, like this straw flower here, that don't make it here in Oklahoma, for me anyway, overwintering, and it's best to start them really early to get out before a normal, spring planting so that they can get in there when the temps are still a little bit cooler. So definitely my straw flower is that way. Lisianthus and eucalyptus are things I can still start around January here. Some of these were not, the timing wasn't perfect, but that was my year that either that year or the year before that I started soil blocking. And I really liked that. You can see you can pack a lot of plants in a small space. And this is in my laundry room on a rolling metal rack from Walmart. And I have heat mats and lights from Amazon. And I just don't have a lot of space. So these little trays were from Dollar Tree and were super easy. And that's a cookie tray, of course. Easy things to find to put the soil blocks in and bottom water them. I since then have bought wind strip trays, which I will definitely use for a lot of things, but I think I'll do a mix. There are some things that do well in soil blocks. And in fact, those snapdragons, it's funny, just putting soil in a big tray and sprinkling these snaps in, and then once they're rooted, just like ripping them apart, it almost like I do my ranunculus, is really been what's best for me. So you just find what works for you, and sometimes it's a mixture. I would use saran wrap, you can see on some of these shots, but I found that I really like press and seal to put down over these trays and let them germinate on the heat mats. And once they sprout, I take that, of course, off and move them up on a different level, and it works really well. The bottom, you can see that they're on cookie trays here in a minute, little cooking cooling sheets, and that gets them raised up off the mats, because these cool season flowers don't necessarily like to be quite as warm, as of course the warm season, and just that little bit of being raised off the mat really helped them. So, finding the right soil blocks mixture for me, sticking with a real fine mixture that I didn't have to, sift out myself or pick things out of, was best, like Fox Farms and ProMix. And I sprinkle in cinnamon to help with reducing algae and other growth on top of the blocks with all this moisture, and that works really, really well. And, different things you can add in to keep the fungus gnats down as well. So that was what I did that year. February brought snow, and we don't always get a lot of snow, but we did. That year we had really cold single-digit temps. Figuring out what was going to, be able to handle it in the hoop, handle my outside wintering over, was definitely an experiment in 2024. You can see some nigella there. My bachelor's buttons did really well. They can handle anything. And I had some other things that worked out pretty well. Bupleurum, which I love, and I have video of later in this video of how great it did. And you'll see here in just a second some saponaria, which I thought was completely toast. It looks terrible in this video. It's coming up right here. And I thought it was dead as a doornail, but it came back beautifully, and I have video of it in just a sec. And here's a little clip of our lop-eared bunny, a purchase I made in a moment of weakness. Someone who was getting rid of this little bunny, and he is super cute. We named him Kevin. My dogs were beside themselves, especially the golden doodle. She drooled all over the floor when we brought the cage in, but they slowly got used to him. Um, I've got Ellie there, that's a golden doodle, and then our German Shepherd, that was a stray who showed up one year and has never left. So someday I'll tell the story of these crazy dogs, but um, they're pretty good little ranch hands and fun to have around. I did make some dried bouquets, which sadly I never sold, but I think that I want to dry more flowers in the future, and it made me think of colors that would be best. Here are flowers hardening off. That was some of those cool season annuals. You can see how big some of these get in the blocks. And there's my cart rolled out for some sun. Lisianthus trucking right along. They grow so slowly, and it was time to start seed starting already and get some warm season annuals. There's some cosmos, and I can see the zinnias down below. And here are those same beds. Daffodils that I had planted. You can see that blue plurum in the back. And look at the bachelor's buttons. I mean, of course, they do really well, and some poppies here in the front. So I'm slowly learning what will make it and not make it out in that field. So daffodils were super fun. I just grow those now for myself. They're a little too pricey for bulbs, but man, April came and the peonies started blooming, and I was hooked. So I have bought many more peonies this last year and put them in the fall. This is how my little peony patch started out. And I think I bought maybe 25 to 50 the first go around. And they're you just can't beat them. They don't last. They're here for a flash and gone, but they were so fun to have for some bouquets here. It was the first time I had any kind of spring bouquet, and mixed in with the bupleurum and snapdragons, I loved it. So it made me think through what I want to plant, more of to go with these. And my snaps were primarily out in the hoop house. So I'm trialing this year a mix. There's the bupleurum, super, super long stems, and I called it the eucalyptus of spring. I love the look. It was just nice to have some flowers again to bring into the house. So this month brought much nicer weather and time to, get out some of those cool season flowers and get to planting. So this is my fabric that I have out in what I call my field. It's small, about probably 30 by 40. And I remember this guy jumping out and scaring the life out of me out of one of those holes. There's some sunflowers I started really early. It worked, but I decided I needed to pay attention to colors. I only like the lighter ones in the summer, and I'll have some of those picks in a minute. Of course, May for us brings lots of storms. Here's a little shot of where we were at in May, and it definitely brought some rain, thunderstorms, and tornadoes for us here in Oklahoma. So there are some shots of the field and my raised beds, and this was May. I've got a little walkthrough video I linked there if you want to back up. This is the hoop, my Lisianthus, and poppies that I grow just for me. Really, they're a little too unreliable to put in a bouquet, but the bees love them, and they're just such pretty spring flowers. I really enjoy seeing them pop open. They're quick to come, quick to go. Mine often start to get kind of moldy and gross at the bottom, but boy, they are nice to bring in and have a little bit of color. These are asters, which I will not grow again. I did have some luck with a king's, like a larger one, but it was kind of hit and miss. The sunflowers that I showed you before, I will stick with light colors like this for those earliest plantings to get out kind of before our frost. They made it. And my one larkspur. I've tried again this year with many more. For whatever reason, I only had a few germinate, but I loved it. So here is, some of those statice and strawflower, sunflowers, and everything that was on the shelf. This is plumbago, one of my favorite things to plant out in my containers, and it's such a pretty blue. There's my straw flower, which later you'll see my debacle with those later in the season. They were really a struggle. They didn't look great, but they were blooming, but they looked dead at the bottom. And it didn't seem to be a water issue. I wasn't sure if it was disease. Some would be nice and stiff and healthy, and some were just crazy floppy. I reached out to a couple of growers that do, excellent with have an excellent show of these every year, and they didn't even know what was going on. So I wasn't sure if I was dealing with water issue, disease issue. I definitely got some decent straw flower, but not near as much as I expected from the amount that I planted. So trying again this year. I'm overwintering. I overwintered them. That didn't work. I didn't think it would. But I also have this year planned to put them in my raised bed instead of in the field here, where I think I retain more water and other things need more water, but these tended to probably be too wet. Um, but boy, I love some of those bright summer colors. I love straw flower. They're so fun. The texture is awesome. They add so much to a bouquet. And again, I was just really disappointed because I planted a lot. I started seeing some good landscape color come back that month, and some, cuttings and different things for my friends. I've wanted more of a cottage, I would say, garden, a mixture of things, trial and error. Um, and love, love, love my hydrangeas, the green limelight. They're great for cuttings, but I've added some more of those as well just in the landscape. So there's a little shot of the view I have of my one landscape bed and kind of looking out into my garden. We finally got some rain. We got more rain last year than we typically do. We deal with a lot of dryness here. If you live in Oklahoma, you know. And there's the status, which did fantastically. I don't know if it's coming up soon, but boy, I had a lot of yellow status, and it wasn't yellow seed. Here's some of the sunflowers that did great. Just timing of these colors was not fantastic because, this looks more like a summer bouquet, and it wasn't summer. This is a shelf that I used an old entertainment center for my flower stand. This is the first year that I actually sold out at the roadside, so I've got some more pictures of that soon. This month brought the zinnias, and I had some specialty zinnias that I bought, some from Floret, some from Baskets of Flowers Farm, and I love the unique colors. I see a lot here that are pinks and the lilac that are just the typical Benary's giants, but a lot of these were variegated and beautiful ones from the specialty farm. So I have more of those this year, but I mean, is that not the most perfect zinnia? There's my yellow status. I did not plant yellow status. No, I did not. So I learned where to buy seed and not to buy seed. A little bit of cucumber farming. I will not bother this year. I grow tomatoes. That's it. Here's my bar and flower mess whenever I get ready to make bouquets, and I finally was able to get some great spring bouquets this year. I love these colors of the muted zinnias. The little bit of wildflower look and some crazy in there, but the snapdragons, the zinnias, and once spring, you've kind of got the end of the spring flowers, the beginning of the summer was awesome. Here are my summer annuals. So I see some cosmos, zinnias. Like I said, it's amazing. Those soil blocks can grow pretty big and then be planted straight out. So here is the garden moving into the summer. And there's one of the best zinnias I had, just variegated, and saved seeds from this one. And that's just so fun to coordinate colors with. So there's my little mesh bags that I put over to save the seed. And a shot of yet another storm, which we get a lot of here in the spring. So we were lucky, that we didn't lose any property or have any issues this year. The year prior, the hail caused us to get a second roof in 2 years, and it beat, my poor little hoop house out in the back pretty bad, and busted holes all through it. So The rain was fantastic, though. Like I said, we got a lot more rain at the beginning of the season than we typically do. You can imagine watering is a challenge here in Oklahoma. I've got a spigot off the back of the barn, and the first year I did drip tape and watered the field in that way, but I still had to do a lot of supplemental watering. So I moved to just overhead watering last year. I'm going to go back to some drip tape, but overhead watering did not cause me any more trouble. This is out in the hoop and my hilarious dianthus that got, a foot tall. But here are Lisianthus, which my hoop I reserve for snaps, Lisianthus ranunculus. These are raised beds built inside essentially a hoop house with the cattle panels. So I'll do a video later with a better showing of how that was built. But the Lisianthus really like it in here, and they can handle, getting dried out a little bit. They are not so persnickety once they make it through that very high maintenance, seedling and growing stage. They're great out here. They can handle our heat. And I tried several varieties, and I'll do a separate Lisianthus video at some point with all the different kinds that I like, but they're the best. There's my few straw flower. Didn't get a lot, but that is, of course, basil. This is cinnamon basil, which is one of my favorite fillers. I love the way it smells. You can see the bees love it too. All the pollinators love it. So here come the flowers. I did this little video for social media of just unwrapping, one of the bouquets and snipping the ends, and of course putting it in the vase of water. And this is my bar in my kitchen or big island, and I would try to harvest a couple of times a week and then put bouquets together to put out at the stand on Saturday mornings. It's a self-service, self-serve honesty stand, and I'll show pictures of that. But my favorite thing is putting these bouquets together. I know that it's I take much more time consuming approach to it, but that's what makes this fun for me. I love to put the color palettes together and play around. I feel like I'm getting better at putting bouquets together. These were some of my favorites, with those shorter stems, putting them in little glass jars. These were little mugs from the dollar store, and I thought those were fun. But, here's where we start pumping out the flowers. We start seeing a mix of all the colors, and the garden is thriving at this point. And every week there's something to cut. And, if you don't stay on top of cutting, they don't grow as well. So you can see here the zinnias, which, yes, we get powdery mildew, but honestly, I did like a milk mixture. If you're interested in that, or want to Google that, that was very helpful to me. I think it didn't prevent it, but it kept it at bay. And zinnias are one of my favorite things to grow. Here is the flower stand. So we put this at the end of the road. I just posted on social media. This was the first weekend, I believe. And then there's the second. I just put them out in this big black box in the hot sun, and they still did well. Did it in the morning. They managed just fine, and we get up into the hundreds. So by, late morning I was finished, but people could pay via Venmo, PayPal, or put money in the cash box. I had no issues with theft, and hopefully that will never be a problem. But, if somebody needs flowers that bad, then, I guess they should have them. That is the a little return for jars, and I had a lot of donations. That was nice. So I really find a lot of joy in the garden, and, having the beauty in the backyard. And that's a hyacinth bean vine growing on those arches we did this year. That's my dad, walking out and checking things out with me. And I keep telling people in Oklahoma, if I've not convinced them to grow this yet, I'm not doing my job, because it is amazing. Hyacinth bean can take the Oklahoma heat so well, and it is so beautiful. And those purple flowers coming off of it, it just will grow up anything. It's the reason I put in these little cattle panel hoops. I did grow a white variety, and I think I've got a little snippet of video of it. I was not as impressed. It didn't do as well. It looked a little scraggly, so I'm going back to all of the purple this year and putting it on all of the hoops. So the pollinators love it. I got a lot of hummingbirds coming to these little flowers, and you can cut it and put it in an arrangement, but you have to kind of cut it at the right time. Here's the white. I felt like it went to seed or pods much faster, and it smelled really odd to me, but it was pretty. but it doesn't get a place this year. So here are some sunflowers, little succession that I direct sowed in the raised bed. They did just fine. A lot of bugs want to get after these. You can see the leaves don't look great, but it doesn't matter. Your cut of your sunflower is fine. These are teddy bear sunflowers, and they're so fun. And the bees love to sleep in them. So those did really well. And there are some of the queen lime zinnias, queen lime variety, always fun. This is one of my favorites. The eucalyptus is just the most perfect color. I did plant more eucalyptus this year, and hopefully I can overwinter it and keep getting bigger plants. The Benares giant, you can see how much bigger those zinnias are. And then I love the other variegated, specialty zinnias for, like to tie in that have that variation and bring different colors together. So those were fun. My husband mowed down. I wanted 2 more strips. It's never enough. So I wanted to expand a place for more zinnias, sunflowers, some annuals. So I tried a cover crop there, which didn't grow too fantastically, but we'll see this year if I can get a couple more strips going there without adding too much compost. I did a little bit more sunflowers later in the season. Some got eaten, and direct sowing is easiest, but really potting them up is best, or starting them by seed in my trays. The season goes along, and of course things get overgrown. Like I said, I have a full-time job. It's a lot, to get out there and weed and clean and keep the grass. If you live in Oklahoma, Bermuda grass is the devil, and it'll take everything over. And just the cleanup is the hard part sometimes. So this is me just clearing out some of the snapdragons in the hoop, and deciding that it was amazing. Some of those actually overwintered and came back so strong, and they were my tallest and best ones. But I decided to start fresh this year with fresh snapdragons. So here are just a few little cheaper bouquets that I put together later in the season. The marigolds, these are the long stem marigolds, and these are, let's see, it's cocoa series. So cocoa orange, cocoa gold, cocoa yellow. I don't remember what they're called, but it really was the cocoa gold, which is, you can see that one in between the orange and yellow. That was perfect. That's the one I actually enjoyed the most. I'm not really a fan of sunflowers. I've never liked traditional sunflowers with the typical look to them, but some of these specialty ones I actually were growing on me. So I have bought more of those for this season. But, just tried some different celotias. Some of those were the floret celotias. Some I loved, some I did not. I love me some good old status. But this is one of the weeks where it was 100 degrees outside. You can see the little buckets. I put some ice packs in the bucket of water, and they did really well. There's the prepped areas for fall planting of cover crop, crimson clover. We'll see how that does. And there are the aphids that showed up on my mum, so I'll show more of that later. I think that's a Rouge Royale sunflower. Nice for fall. And that's a shot down at my peony field. I'll have to do a peony video because I did plant some peonies. There's those aphids. So they started in September, and it was an absolute nightmare on my mum's. Here is what the September garden looks like, overgrown and lots of work to be done. And I think I started some sunflowers right there at the beginning of October, and they did do okay, but that was a little late for me. It was nice just to enjoy the garden. It was starting to get overgrown, and it was time to pull things out, but saw a lot of pollinators and enjoyed being out during that time. October's pretty hot for us, and so that makes all the cleanup and work to turn over beds and get ready for fall planting pretty tough sometimes. We can be in the hundreds in October, and it just depends. Every year's, it's a surprise around here in Oklahoma, isn't it? Here's another shot of my aphids. I'm not kidding you. I fought aphids from September until when I pulled these out. These did bloom, and
it was, I have some more pictures of that. It was very difficult to try to get rid of them. Haven't decided if I'm keeping them yet or not. Here are my fall snaps, and was hardening those off, and then we got tons of rain in November, which ended up not being too rough for those little transplants. But there are the peonies. I ordered 100 new peonies and put those in the ground right there at the beginning of December. And I am so excited to have more of these. That's the little peony field. I'll do a video in the future, but I do use fabric out there. There's lots of terrible Bermuda grass and stickers, and that's worked well for me. So I did get some mums, but look at these aphids. I sprayed all different types of things. At some point, I may do a video on that if I find something that was helpful. I have since pulled all of them out of the hoop, but gosh, they're so beautiful. I just can't decide if I want to keep them. The timing is so late that there's really nothing else to put with them, but it sure is nice having some of these really pretty fall flower colors in November, and they last forever in a vase. The heirloom mums will last so long that you're almost tired of them, and they're so easy to propagate. Just from little cuttings. They do great. So I'm hoping they can limp along, and I may still have them next year. I've pulled them all out of the hoop and hopefully won't have terrible aphid problems in there. When I planted out some of the fall flowers, I tried this easy straw this year. It worked pretty well, and I just wanted to help improve the soil, keep it protected. We'll see how it does. I'm really excited for what's coming in the spring. So if you've hung in there this long on this first video ever of me trying to pull together and voice over a YouTube video, I really appreciate it. My plan for future videos is to be a little more detailed as I go through my season and processes, showing flowers and arrangements and, plantings. And that's the kind of thing I like to see on YouTube, is what works and doesn't work for other growers in my area or just in challenging environments like Oklahoma can be. So if you like that kind of thing too, then subscribe and you'll know when those videos come along. Comment and let me know what types of things you like to see other growers share. I hope you enjoy your season of gardening and growing, and thank you so much for watching.